You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is March 25th, 2024, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we're specifically going to be talking about FreedomFest. It's definitely one of those great conferences that happens every year, and we have a special guest here to tell us all about it. Valerie Durham, she is the Executive Director of FreedomFest. But before we get into that, let me introduce you to the rest of our panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have our invisible hand, James Just, who is a very visible hand today. And he is.
Yeah, it's like the second week in a row I've been visible. I'm not very invisible these days.
I guess not. Yeah, with Leon gone, and of course no Leon today and no Tim. But in our lower right-hand corner, we have our special guest today, and that's Valerie Durham of FreedomFest. So we're going to enjoy talking to her. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host. We are going to talk about FreedomFest coming up and the past FreedomFest. And we'll have a few snippets from some of these events too as well. And but before we get into that, we always start out nowadays with a Liberty quote. So let's jump straight to that. And I've found out this has extra relevance today too. And I'll let Valerie talk about that when she gets a chance to talk. But this one is from Ben Franklin. And it seemed particularly relevant given what FreedomFest is all about. And it says, it is a common observation here that our cause is the cause of all mankind and that we are fighting for their liberty and defending our own. And he said this apparently before signing the Declaration of Independence, or it was very close before signing the Declaration of Independence. And of course, Ben Franklin's one of our founding fathers. He's sort of one of our, great scientists from the history of the United States. And of course, he's also one of our early journalists as well. So a real pivotal figure there. But boy, I tell you, it just seems like that's what FreedomFest is all about. I mean, all these people who are getting together down there, they're not just fighting for their own liberty, they're fighting for everybody's liberty. So I thought that was kind of an interesting quote. You guys have anything you wanted to say about this quote?
Well, I'll get in real quick. So before Valerie's got the good story. So I'll go in real quick. That is true, right? Oftentimes, those of us who fight for liberty are fighting for people who don't actually quite believe in it until they need it, and that's one of these things that I think we should all be mindful of. I'll use that phrase. All right. Sorry, Valerie, to step on your toes, but
I love that, and I think it's true. I think we all get concerned about the idea of a slippery slope when it comes to losing our freedoms, but the truth is there's also a stair-stepping slope. When we build up our freedoms, we build up those freedoms for everybody, and I think that's an important thing to realize, that when we fight for our own freedoms, we create more possibility for everyone to experience freedom, and that is the goal, is that freedom is for everyone. And that is one of the beautiful things that I think the principles of that early revolution, the principles were there, and we've had to expand that more and more over time. And that is one of the things we talk about at Freedom is how do we introduce freedoms to more and more people who maybe haven't had the chance to experience freedom in the past. How do we expand those freedoms at all time? I'll just share, I'm a direct descendant of Benjamin Franklin. And so it's very fun to start with Grandpa Ben. I'm a 10th generation direct descendant. And my dad, it's a family business. FreedomFest is a family business. He started FreedomFest back in 2002 when he was the president of FEE. He often dresses up like Ben Franklin, looks quite like.
And real quick, Valerie, FEE stands for
the Foundation for Economic Education. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he was president of the Foundation for Economic Education, America's oldest free market think tank, still in existence today. Does incredibly great work. Leonard Read was the original president there, and Ronald Reagan was often known to read the periodicals and articles that came out of FEE. And so they've been very influential in the liberty movement. And when he was president, he saw this need for people who care about liberty to come together. And he thought to himself, what if we created, at the time it was called the Fee National Convention, but an opportunity for everyone who cares about liberty to come together. And since that time, it's expanded to just become Freedom Fest. But we still have that basic principle. And we recognize that liberty is not just politically focused, although that's extremely important. Political freedom is very important. But we have a 360 experience of liberty in our lives. And every facet should be supported with greater freedom and liberty, whether it's economic freedom, financial freedom, health freedom, cultural and social freedom, intellectual freedom, creative freedom, business freedom, professional freedom, things of this nature, the freedom to travel, the freedom to express, the freedom to own property and actually own it. Things like this are really important. And so you'll find that multiplicity of experience and topic at Freedom Fest when you come. And so that's a little bit of what it's all about. And we're definitely in the game of expanding freedom to everyone.
Yeah. And, one of the things too that I can't help but thinking about with that quote with Ben Franklin as well is that often when we talk about something like freedom of speech, it's so important to anybody who knows that they're defending a freedom of speech that they have to defend the rights of the other people to speak too, because they realize if they don't do that, they're not going to be able to defend their own rights later on as well. So it's one of those things where you pretty much have to take up the torch for everybody, or no one is going to be defended. So I just to me that quote is a pretty interesting quote. But getting to Freedom Fest though, this is one of those things you've kind of already given us a little bit of background sort of about what it's about and how it evolved. I think now would probably be a good time to share a video that they had, you guys have on your YouTube page that sort of tells people what Freedom Fest is about. I've edited it down from about 3.5 to 2 minutes, but I think it's a pretty good overview, and it's also sort of started and ended by somebody we really love on this show, Larry Sharp, who we've had a few times on here. So let's bring up that video, James, KOL number 1.
One of the best things about Freedom Fest is while you can go to other places to talk about liberty and things like that, here you find a diverse group of people who will always teach you something new and make you think differently about the liberty movement.
There are all kinds of vendors here, all kinds of electeds. There are speakers, celebrities. We all have one thing in common. We think that there's too much government, and we think that our personal freedoms have eroded over time.
So many of your favorite libertarian celebrities are here at Freedom Fest. Kevin O'Leary, Kevin Sorbo, Penn Jillette, John Stossel, John Mackey, Glenn Beck, Justin Amash, Candace Owens, Mike Lee. You not only get to hear them speak, you get to talk to them because our speakers are part of the action.
Freedom Fest is an amazing opportunity for freedom lovers from all over the world to meet and interact, strategize, and come up with ways to advance our principles both in the culture and within the political space.
Because Freedom Fest attracts a wide range of people, both conservative and libertarian, Republican, maybe there might even be a few progressives here, we have an opportunity to network with people who otherwise I might have to take a flight across the country to talk to.
One of the best things about Freedom Fest is coming here and learning that you are not alone in your fight for freedom in this country. There are so many like-minded people who share your beliefs, who share your values, who are ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with you as we advocate for a freer society.
Freedom Fest is one of the most important places to go every single year if you're in any way, shape, or form connected to the liberty movement. Because if you're not here, people think something's wrong. You're supposed to be here.
So that so that's an overview, James, maybe we could bring up the page too as well. So this is the Freedom Fest main page. So so you can come here and find out more information about it. So let's see. So what do you think, Valerie, are some of the most important aspects that I guess are put across at this conference? I mean, are there certain aspects of liberty that are sort of more highlighted than others?
Over the years, Freedom Fest, because we look at liberty from so many different angles, we've been at the forefront of a lot of interesting conversations. We were discussing the other day in one of our team meetings that back in 2012, we had our first session on Bitcoin and blockchain. Didn't know what in the heck we were talking about. We were like, I guess we should talk about this thing. And we were also laughing because a couple years in, we had a few more sessions. Somebody came and told us very proudly how he had purchased this can of Coke for 12 Bitcoin. And he had actually used his Bitcoin to buy this can of Coke. And we were laughing a couple weeks ago, like that poor dude. He spent 12 Bitcoin on a can of Coke. Like, oh my gosh, he must just be like this. So, drug legalization, we were talking about that way back in the day. We were talking about, sex work legalization. Now we're looking at a bunch of AI stuff. And so what we talk about at Freedom Fest often changes as we move closer to and farther away from liberty. And so every year is a little bit different. One of the things you might have noticed from that video that we just showed, there was a lot of Wild West theme. And every year we have a different theme. And we've had a lot of really interesting themes. In 2017, that was our 10-year anniversary. We called it Exploring New Frontiers. And we had William Shatner come and talk about his career and some of the things he'd experienced through his very profound work ethic. And other years we've had, Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, where my dad showed up as Benjamin Franklin to introduce the crowd. That's the year we were in South Dakota. We've had a lot of other themes that take us in different directions. This year, our theme is Brave New World. And we pose it as a question mark because we really wonder, are we entering into a brave new world kind of scenario that Aldous Huxley wrote about back in the 1930s? It's a really old book, but it's got so much relevance for today as technology becomes more and more present in our lives. Is that something that's going to free us? Or is that something that's going to tie us down, or some combination thereof? And these are really important questions because does the phone, it ties us down in some ways where we're constantly scrolling and looking. At the same time, it gives us access to so much incredible information. Transportation, self-driving cars, hey, they can get you somewhere. Maybe it's a little easier. You don't have to worry about driving so much. But at the same time, if there's a pandemic, are we going to look at government being able to shut down those cars, not let you go places and keep you at home? So we're going to talk about a lot. Tech freedom is a hugely important topic. It's definitely one of the things we're covering at Freedom Fest this year. The AI phenomenon is a really important conversation to be having. There's a lot more we're going to be talking about at Freedom Fest, but yeah, it evolves based on the theme, based on what's going on in the world. One of the things we have to look at is now we've legalized a lot of drugs in this country. Is that working? Is that not working? So we're, sometimes we can turn back and look and see how is that working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it seems to be pretty amazing the way everything is changing so fast. I mean, I'm hearing about some of these. Oh gosh, I can't remember what the name of the company is, but some of these car companies now, these sort of cab companies, actually have autonomous vehicles on the roads already. So yes. I mean, these things all start to bring up new legal questions, I guess, and maybe questions about that might.
And sometimes the technologies are coming up so quickly, we don't even have time to grapple with the ethics and the etiquette around these things, and they're profoundly influencing our lives. And yet we don't have a moment to stop and say, should we be vaccinating en masse? Should we be, connecting via AI? Should there, how does ChatGPT affect academics? And now all these worries come up, but we don't really know how to grapple with it. And so that's one of the things I really like about the conference is that we bring together experts in all of these fields, and we have really proactive, solution-oriented conversations about it. It's really easy to get into a bunch of doom and glooming, and that's fun and all of that. Like, oh, the sky is falling, robots are going to take over the world, But the fact is, we do have challenges, but by bringing people with real intelligence and expertise and depth of thinking, having a really great panel or a really great debate on it that allows people to make a decision and to think about things, that's how we really make progress. So that's one of the cool things. Lots of debates, lots of panels, 250 to 300 speakers at this 4-day conference. So their choices of what you get to learn about are just amazing.
Yeah, I think it's actually important that we actually have people think about things. I saw something yesterday. I was perusing something. I don't remember what I was perusing, but there came a story that this teenager realized that his mother's washing machine, was actually using 3.6 gigabytes of data a day. What is your washing machine? What is your washing machine doing that's using 3.6 gigabytes of data?
It's like laundering money.
I know. It's mining Bitcoin. Like, I don't know.
It's doing something. But the question is, we need to think about, why does our washing machine need to connect to the internet? Now, maybe you do. Maybe you have a disabled person or someone who needs more supervision in their lives.
Right.
They're autistic, and in order to live a relatively free life, they need someone to supervise. Hey, are you actually washing your clothes? Are you washing your dishes? Okay, so maybe there are circumstances where that's reasonable, but for the average person, can't think of a single reason why my washing machine needs to be connected to the internet. But people should have the freedom to make that choice, but we should think about it before we do. A lot of these problems can be solved by us simply choosing not to buy them, and then they go away.
Unless we have a government entity that says we will have all electric cars by 2030 and you will have an electric car. And then we're facing all of these incredible issues with how long it takes to charge, and do you get stranded in the what do you do about this? I read something similar. It's like, if we had all electric cars and somebody came by and said, I can provide a car that is way lighter, more efficient, takes less, rare earth minerals to prepare. You can refuel it in 10 minutes or less, 5 minutes. You can refuel and be back on the road. All of these things, we'd be like, it's a miracle. We're pushing ourselves into, again, if you want that, if the market supports it and you want to have that. But this idea of forcing and creating regulation is just way too ubiquitous in our society now. And unfortunately, both sides of the aisle, as they say, seem to be very comfortable with broad government edicts in whatever their favorite, whatever they think is correct. They're fully on board with just make that a government regulation and an edict and mandate. I think the other thing, James, to your point, the pandemic, I think, really revealed a lot of the ridiculousness and the lack of thinking that happened. There was so little common sense in certain areas. Like, just for example, shutting down healthier food restaurants, but McDonald's stayed open, shutting down the gyms, but the liquor stores stayed open, preventing small business from thriving, preventing people from getting together, just really said, nobody is thinking. I think about that every time I go through the stupid TSA and everybody has to dump out their water bottles, which if they were actually dangerous, why do we have a can right in the middle of that security checkpoint filled with these very dangerous fluids? I just think that's not, if we really think that this is dangerous, shouldn't we dispose of that somewhere else and not in the trash can that's right there as all of us are going through the TSA? So there's a lot of common sense that just really doesn't get considered.
Well, I have a bit of good news for all of us. Me and my daughter, she's 25. We were talking last night. Her car, I have a 2015 Kia. She has a 2016. We were talking about how lucky we are that we got kind of the last cars you can get that are off grid.
Yep.
There's no tracking on our cars. We got a real basic model, so there's no tracking. There's no, the closest thing we have to being on the grid is the satellite radio we don't pay for.
Yeah.
And
it has value. It really does.
So we feel lucky that we've got these.
Yeah.
Cars.
I have a 2010 Lexus, and
Not planning on selling it and selling it. I'm gonna keep this thing running until the wheels fall off, and then I'll put them back on. That's what I'm gonna do.
Put it back on. That's really true.
You know what's interesting too about the cars and the appliances and all those, I mean, is how much are they spying on you? But all the spying isn't necessarily, I guess, set up by the companies originally. A lot of times the government wants this information, like when you talk about your car, whether it has to do with emissions or your, potentially safety issues on the car, they actually want some of this information, and they force the car companies to give them that information. So, they're not always just collecting the information just because they want to spy on you. So, I mean, at least the manufacturers.
Yeah. They all want our information for whatever.
But sometimes that information is valid. Like one of the issues I had with my car early on was its engine blew up because it was part of that a recall. They had some of their Kia engines had a knock issue, and if it went on too long, but if they get data, that data can be useful to catch those things early. But I should have the ability to opt in, opt out, or choose to. I'm going to risk blowing the engine up or having the problem because I don't want to have to download this data every night or whatever it is. So but again, we should all have the freedom to make
conversations. What's reasonable? What's not reasonable? What's effective? What's not effective? And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the panels, the debates. And we also team up with a lot of really fantastic organizations and think tanks, grassroots organizations, groups that are doing great work in various areas. And that's what's so cool. Our exhibit hall is called the Trade Show for Liberty. And we have all the best, nonprofit organizations who are coming and talking about the work they're doing in health freedom or on, vaccines or in transportation. We've been talking with the National Motorists Association about some of the work that they're doing. We have Cato and Reason and AIER, FEE, all of these groups, and they're doing tremendous work. And it's so awesome because you can walk into that exhibit hall and just go to booth and actually talk directly with the people doing the most important liberty work. And that's one of the really cool features.
That might be a good segue for us to jump into the KOL video too, where we actually show ourselves going to these booths and finding out. So I think we just have enough time to squeeze that in before the break. So. This is the Knuckleheads of Liberty coming to you from FreedomFest 2022 from the Mirage in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the final day of the conference. It's just wrapping up. You can see the main stage behind us going on right now. There's a lot of activity still in the exhibition hall, but boy, it's been a great conference. What do you think, Leon?
I think it has been fantastic. We always talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which came out of one of our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence. But this is where you see it in action, where you meet all sorts of people of different walks of life who talking about spreading that message of liberty. It's been fantastic.
Young Americans for Liberty, we're here and we're asking people to sign what we call our free speech ball. And what we do at Young Americans for Liberty is we recruit college students on campuses. First off, we let them know, if you think liberty, you're not alone. There's other people like you that actually think the same way. And so we connect those students together, but then we also support them. So say the administration is saying, this is hate speech, you can't say this, or you can't organize, you're not allowed to do that. We'll support.
Gunners America, we've been around since 1976. We're a nonprofit, 2A organization. We're basically out there fighting for our Second Amendment rights. The biggest part about us that sets us kind of different from everybody else is we're the only no compromise organization. We believe that our Second Amendment was made for exactly what it says, and it's to uphold from tyranny. So we believe in no gun control, and we believe we have enough gun control that's already been put out on our books.
Party. Angela, you want to tell us a little bit about how things are going for you here at Freedom Fest?
Yeah, things are going great. We are just spreading the message of the Libertarian Party, letting people know that we're all about economic and individual liberty. We want to give people an additional option when they hit the voting booth, and we also want to get them politically and culturally engaged in their local communities, because I think that's where real reform begins.
Well, for 40 years, we've helped students get through their graduate and undergraduate programs with support funding, which we collect from private donors. We don't take any government money, of course. We've been creating Austrian scholars for the last 40 years as a nonprofit. One of the things we're doing here is promoting our new graduate school, because we figured out with all of these PhD economists we've created and this new thing they call the internet, that rather than fund students to go to other people's schools, we could create our own, and that's what we've done. We created an online master's degree program in Austrian economics. It's the only purely Austrian economic graduate degree program in the U.S.
We're a nonprofit organization. We're in 35 different states, and what we do is we help grassroots activists understand the principles of freedom, the principles that have built the most successful civilizations in history, and then we help them learn how to activate upon those principles, how to be activists for policies, but then how to implement those changes on a city level, a county level, a state level, and a federal level. Really teaching them the skills to be better advocates for free societies.
Yes. So we are an organization that goes to conservative, libertarian, Republican audiences, those on the right, and we talk about why the death penalty is not an effective system. Here's a couple of reasons why. It's costly, ineffective, and it's wasteful. It doesn't help murder victims' family. It does not serve as a deterrent to crime, and it doesn't keep us safe. It is basically big government at its finest. So check this out. I don't trust government to give me accurate COVID numbers. I don't trust government to deliver my mail on time. Why on God's green earth would I trust the government with a matter of life and death?
You sound exactly like a libertarian.
So there you go. But that's exactly the kind of people you'll meet on the floor at Freedom Fest, and there's lots more tables out there.
Way more.
So, but yeah.
150 to 180 exhibitors. I mean, all like that, with passion, focus, vision, work, and all just like that quote at the beginning, all striving for greater liberty for all mankind. It's just awesome.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching us on public access, we've got to break away right now, but you can catch the rest of this conversation online. So just check us out you can check us out at knuckleheadsofliberty.com, or go to YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, or Facebook. Actually. Okay. So let's back to the show. I guess
take all the gloves off and do all the promoting and selling you want.
All right.
You don't have to be careful with language anymore. That's the nice part about this thing.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say maybe now's a good time to talk about some of the guests that are coming up, because aside from having all those great booths of people that you can go meet, some of those, by the way, are speakers too at some of those tables as well.
Those tables, a lot of them are providing content, breakout sessions, main stage sessions. So it's a really great mix. So a lot of your Liberty heroes end up at Freedom Fest. It's another great reason to come back year after year, because some of your favorites can come back year after year. I mean, Larry Sharp is one of our ambassadors, Maj Touré, Spike Cohen, Steve Forbes, John Mackey, and now Lisa Kennedy. Those are all of our ambassadors come back year after year. But the people that we're really excited about this year, Ice-T is coming to Freedom Fest this year. Grammy Award-winning rapper who has taken on the system in many ways, a deep believer in free speech.
James, can you bring up the visual real quick while Valerie's talking so we can see all these people? Oh, great. Thanks. Sorry about that, Valerie.
No worries. And he's also, believe it or not, the longest-running active actor on television right now with the same consistent role. And so he's been in that acting game for a long time. He's such a passionate deliverer of just important activism in criminal justice reform, education reform, freedom of speech, that kind of thing. So I'm excited to hear about him. We also have Steven Pinker coming from Harvard, and he's just awesome on progress and innovation and how these things are so positive for us. So taking that perspective that technology and the different ways we make progress really move us forward, and we should be excited about that. So I think for our Brave New World theme, he's really perfect in a lot of ways. We also have Lord Matt Ridley coming all the way from England, who is also a great proponent of progress and innovation. He's just written a book called Viral, which is about the pandemic, the things that went right and the things that went wrong. And I think his insights on that are going to be super valuable. Emily Campagno is coming from Fox and Outnumbered. She'll be joining her good friend Lisa Kennedy. And of course, Tom Woods, John Mackey of Whole Foods, Michael Shermer, a great scientific journalist, will be talking. Emily Austin. Of course, we talked about Larry Sharp. Baron Baptiste is coming. His parents basically started the yoga movement in America back in the 1950s. And now Baron is this proponent of power yoga, but also this mindset of activating your own personal life. And I'm a firm believer that we have to have freedom in our minds. We have to get rid of limiting beliefs. We have to get rid of our own defeatist attitudes in order to experience freedom. And once we do that, we can start to propel freedom in other ways. And so he's going to be talking about how to activate freedom in your personal life and how we can grow that out. Robert Kiyosaki's coming back, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And also, I'm really excited that this year we're bringing a fantastic entrepreneur named Sean Nelson. He is the CEO of Lovesack. And he's just an awesome, practically rags to riches story. Not quite, but, he started as a college student building these crazy bean bags, and he's turned it into this, NASDAQ major corporation that produces these built to last, designed to last furnishings for people. He's got an awesome perspective on capitalism, conscious capitalism, creating products and businesses that really develop freedom and support us. So he's really awesome. Governor Joe Lombardo is coming, the new governor of Nevada. And after everything that Freedom Fest went through with the shutdowns in 2020 and the way that Governor Sisolak at the time was just so heavy-handed with the mandates, we're really excited that Joe Lombardo will be greeting us at Freedom Fest and welcoming us. We've got Grover Norquist, Roberto Salinas. We've got, Helen Ray, and the list honestly goes on and on. We are in our early bird period. So tickets are at the lowest you'll see. They're only $397 right now. And if you use Knuckleheads 50, you get another $50 off. But what's exciting about that is that we're just at the beginning of confirming really great speakers, really great sessions. So I recommend everyone does themselves a favor, sign up now, take advantage of the low price, and just watch how the conference comes together. By the time we launch the agenda in like mid-June, you are going to be blown away by the number of sessions, the number of speakers, and the great time that you're going to have at Freedom Fest, I tell you.
Yeah, it always seems like you guys are adding people right up to the end.
We do. We really do. And there's always some surprises too. Like we think, okay, we've, invited all the people we want to invite who can come this year. And then we'll inevitably get that phone call, from somebody who's like, so-and-so wants to come to Freedom Fest, and we're like, okay, how do we make room on our main stage? Because it's already full, but we always try to bring the very best people to Freedom Fest. And it's just such an intense, and you guys have been, it's just such an intense and great 4 days.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll surprise us with somebody from Argentina. That would be great.
Let me just say, I really recommend you get your tickets now.
Yeah.
He does have a country to run, so there's always that caveat,
There you go. So I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask is, I guess you guys hop around because, like I said, when I saw you guys the first time, it was in South Dakota, as you mentioned, and then you guys were back in Vegas, and that's where we had our video footage from, was in Vegas. Then you guys just went out to Memphis this last year, and so Jade, maybe I could bring up the visual from that. And I was just curious, how did that go? We would have loved to have come, but we just couldn't manage to work it into our schedules. But that's something where we're definitely thinking about trying to make it this year. So
Yeah,
now that you guys are back
we
in
had
Vegas.
always been in Vegas up until the shutdown in 2020. And 2021, we just didn't trust that Sisolak would keep Vegas open. It was too risky. Meanwhile, Governor Kristi Noem in South Dakota was like, hey, South Dakota's open, come. And so we did. We went to Rapid City right outside Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse. We had an amazing experience there. I think people were really, like anxious to get out of the house after being shut down so horribly. So that was a tremendous event. And then, like you said, we were back in Vegas. But what we learned is that we have people who absolutely love Vegas, can't wait to go when it's in Vegas. But we also have people who really loved it when we weren't in Vegas. And so it's also really interesting, I think, to take freedom to the places where freedom is needed. It's all well and good to take prosperity and the knowledge that we have, that those of us who have invested in learning about freedom and experiencing freedom. But there are a lot of people out there who are denied the opportunity to understand freedom, who are actively, it's kept from them. And those are the people we need to engage with. There are a lot of people out there who are working hard, who don't have necessarily an understanding of these freedom principles. And I loved going to Memphis. I loved the fact that Graceland was there. The civil rights movement was so huge right there. And if you think about let's go back to the music. What a great symbol. In Memphis, you had different people and different cultures coming together and spontaneously creating a new art form, super expressive in the blues, soul, and rock and roll. And that is the essence of a free society where people come together and they collaborate and they form new and better things, whether it's technology or business or services or art forms. That is the essence of freedom. And I just thought that was a beautiful symbol of what freedom is all about and what we're striving for, is that opportunity to collaborate and build. We always talk about capitalism being about competition. Well, that's only one of the 3 C's of capitalism to me. And the other 2 are cooperation and collaboration. And actually, those are actually more important than competition. Competition is the refiner's fire to make your product or your service better. But collaboration and cooperation, as Leonard Reed and iPencil points out, that's how you actually make things happen. You collaborate with your vendors, with your suppliers, with your clients, with your stockholders. That's how you're all building something together to make that happen. And so we really got to stress a lot more the collaborative and cooperative nature of capitalism, not just the competitive nature of it.
Yeah. That essay, The Pencil, there's a video of that, and I actually keep that pinned on our Facebook page. So that
Pencil is an awesome allegory for free market economics.
Yeah, because I figure, if somebody comes there and if they click on that video, then that'll give them a good, at least top level understanding of at least what we're trying to do. So,
Memphis was great, and we really enjoyed it. We had a lower turnout there than we expected. I think there was a lot going on with the economy. That's when inflation was really going crazy, and you just never know. But this year we're back in Vegas, and we are, and it's also a presidential election year. And we are likely to have a lot of politicians, candidates, folks coming out and talking. So if you want to meet some of your favorite politicians and candidates, it's going to be a great place for that in Vegas this year.
Favorite politician? Isn't that an oxymoron?
I know that might be an oxymoron. There are a few we like, right? Maybe, hopefully.
How about the what is it? The least disliked politician? Maybe. I shouldn't talk. I do have I did part of my life was a politician there. So,
and that's why I love the Harry Brown principle of finding freedom in an unfree world. And really, although we have to pay attention to elections and politics and governance and all of that, we have a whole slew of tracks about how you find freedom around all the regulatory state. And that's, financial freedom, taking care of your own health, finding alternative living zones where maybe you want to live in a Prospera community or in Lieberland, those folks are with us. So It's a great way to learn how you can live freer regardless of what happens. And that's one of, if you haven't read Harry Brown's book, How to Live Free in an Unfree World, it's a very interesting read. But I think that principle of like, okay, whatever happens, how can I and my family and my business partners and my community, how can we choose to live freer no matter what? And that's an important ownership and sovereignty mentality that's super important, that we don't, the essence of freedom is to not be a victim and to have that sense of sovereignty and choice. And we can maintain that no matter what.
You know, I did have one follow-up question too to the issue of going to different cities, and that's what cities are on the radar in the future, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Well, next year we are planning to be in Palm Springs, which would be really fun. Kind of a little oasis. We're going to be a little earlier though in the year. We're going to be in early June rather than later in July. So it'll not be as, July is really hot in Palm Springs, but June is still pleasant and enjoyable. So we're going to have a great time in Palm Springs. The convention center there is amazing. There's so much art and culture and great food, and it's a real getaway. So we're working on our theme and all of that for that year, and then we'll see. We're working on some other cities. There's a lot to consider. You have to consider whether it's a draw, how accessible it is, how close the airport is, what the hotel rates are, because we try to have a good range. You go to some place like Nashville, the lowest hotel rate you're going to get in Nashville is like $350. And for some of our students and older retirees and things like that are really important to us, we really want such a broad swath of people to come to Freedom Fest. We don't like to go to a place where they're priced out of being able to come because the destination itself is so expensive. So we'll see. We're testing out this back and forth. And if Palm Springs is a good hit, maybe we'll continue. Otherwise, we know we can always stick with Vegas, and that's got a nice range of hotel rates and accessible airport and all that good stuff to think about.
So no Hawaii for Freedom Fest is what
I'd love to go to Hawaii. I know the Grassroots Institute would love for us to come to Hawaii. We thought about Anchorage, Alaska. We've been thinking about like where are places, because that was some of the feedback we got, especially with South Dakota. How many people said, I never had a chance to go to Mount Rushmore. And now Freedom Fest is there. So now I can go to Freedom Fest and go to Mount Rushmore. So we've thought a little bit about bucket lists, and that's why Graceland is kind of a bucket list for people. Palm Springs is a fantastic oasis, getaway, vacation spot that a lot of people haven't been to. So yeah, but then you have to think about how far is it for people to travel and how expensive is it for people to travel? And we don't want to, we want it accessible for lots of people.
One of these years, take it to an unfree place. You're going to have to go to DC.
As somebody who lives in DC, I'm okay if we don't go to DC.
Well, see, I always like being in DC, not because of DC. It's because of the Civil War battlefields that are within a couple hours drive.
I homeschooled my son living here in DC, having access to the museums and so many of the historic sites right here. I mean, let me tell you, it was really, we didn't do any school. We would just go to Antietam, go to Gettysburg. We just went all the places and learned from the actual sites. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's how I loved history. That's my learn of history, was walking those battlefields. I learned to love history doing that.
So it becomes
didn't love history in school, but I loved it when I got to study it on my own. Imagine that.
I hear you.
Yeah,
totally hear you.
Well, Valerie, as we start to get close to the end here, I wanted to just check with you. Are there any other things? I know they have the Anthem Film Festival in the past. Is that going to be a part of what you're doing?
About that. Okay. Yeah. So again, going with our 360 Liberty experience, we do have a full film festival, and it is awesome. It's called the Anthem Film Festival. It's been around for over 10 years now, and we get great long and short form narrative and documentary films that celebrate choice, accountability, and freedom. And it is and it runs concurrent in one of the breakout rooms. We outfit it like a theater, and you can go in and not only watch the films, but the filmmakers come. We do really interesting panels after the end of the various films or collection of shorts. And so you get to engage and really talk about the films, which is totally awesome. We have a lounge attached to it. You can come in and meet the filmmakers. A couple of the other features we also have the Global Financial Summit, which is a full track of financial freedom oriented sessions. We also have our comedy show, which is the Punching Up Comedy Festival. That's super, super fun. We have comedians come and talk during the main sessions, but we also have an actual show where you get to go and enjoy liberty-based comedy. And we also have live music, which we think is really, really important. We're going to have a live art installation. So we're supporting visual arts. We've got a jam session and other live music going on with Freedom Fest, and a big party on Saturday night, our Saturday night banquet with the Spasmatics are coming. And we're going to have, I'm basically calling it like the Brave New World prom kind of experience. And so people can dress up, and we're going to have all kinds of cool lights and just amazing, amazing things. So we're also going to have a little book club experience with Brave New World. So those who get the book, read it, we're going to have a really cool conversation about that on the first day and kind of engage with that. So if you like comedy, come to Freedom Fest. If you like films, come to Freedom Fest. If you like music, come to Freedom Fest. If you care about all the different ways that you need to experience liberty, whether it's technology, economics and finance, health freedom, if you're concerned about cultural and social freedom, all of those things are present. And if you just want to come meet really cool people who think like you do, or even who don't think like you do, but who are willing to have a decent conversation with you with intelligence, it's really cool for that. And it's set in Vegas. We're at Harrah's, Link Hotel, and Caesar's Palace. Link Promenade is right there. The Strip is on the other side. The Sphere, that new cool Sphere thing, is right next door. The High Roller is right there. So it's a really cool section of Vegas to hang out and have a great, great time.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people haven't seen that Sphere yet, so that's,
it's so
that's something to be
cool.
out.
I'm telling you, you're like, now it's the moon. Now it's a kaleidoscope. It's like.
Well, and the concerts inside, I've heard, are pretty amazing too. But we're getting right near the end of the show, and that's usually where we do our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. And this time we're going to do something a little bit different. It's something kind of funny that happened from Freedom Fest last year.
Okay.
And so, and that's Mike Rowe was at Freedom Fest, and so that's one of the many guests you had a chance to meet last year, and he wound up getting sort of harangued into doing a barbershop style quartet, and I kind of felt like it was Mike Rose singing the blues barbershop style. so maybe we can see that clip.
Did not know that was coming, and he jumped right in like a pro. He was amazing. So yeah, you got to show this. This is the kind of thing that happens at Freedom Fest all the time. It's so cool.
And okay, and this is edited a little too, so we took a little out.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, James.
This is the absolute weirdest day of my adult life, man. I got to tell you.
So we'd like to invite Mike. I mean, you mentioned you sing in the opera before. You mentioned you made a lot of bad choices, including singing barbershop. And
good sight reader too.
We heard that you are a phenomenal sight reader of music. So we'd like to invite you to sing with us. You're wearing the wrong hat.
With you. All right. That's not bad.
That's our gift to you. Not bad.
God, I look like a Pez dispenser. Last night alone on our way home, you turned and said to me, "Oh, my flies now. I love you." By my If you can't sing it pretty, sing it loud.
All right.
I don't know whether to thank you or apologize, so I'll do both. Thanks, fellas.
So there you have it, Mike Rowe singing barbershop quartet. So
again, that was the weirdest day. I thought you had some amazing moments at Freedom Fest with Penn Jillette, and one time we were doing an interview with Penn and Glenn, And Glenn Beck decided that the chairs were super uncomfortable. And so he just gets up and he says, I can't sit in this chair anymore. And he sits on the edge of the stage. And so then Penn was like, well, heck, I'm going to sit on the edge of the stage. And then the moderator sat on the edge. So they're all just sitting, legs dangling, hitting itself. Then we had a wrestling match with William Shatner. It's just, you kind of never know what's going to happen. It's pretty
That's
fun.
live entertainment, folks.
Live entertainment. Really creative people,
Well, Valerie, did you have any final things you wanted to say before we exit on
One of
Freedom
the
Fest?
other things we're working on that I think is going to be super, super cool is a very high level presidential candidate debate with independent and third party candidates. And we're, going to bring that to people and broadcast it out and demonstrate, there are a lot of independent voters out there who really don't feel aligned with the left and the right dynamic. And we want to share that there are alternatives to how we govern this country and get involved in politics. So we're working on the various candidates who will come. And I think it's going to provide this alternative view that it's not just left and right. It's not just Democrat, Republican. There are other views out there of how we approach freedom and liberty and politics in this country. And we're going to prove that people can have a civil debate and make great points, go in depth, but it's not all this tit for tat and, junk that you hear, all these talking points, but we're going to get into substantive issues. So I think that's going to be another thing that people are not going to want to miss, because it's going to be a high level conversation with important viewpoints that you can't get on the national media, that you can't get in any presidential debates that are run by the Presidential Debate Commission. And so I think that's also going to be really cool and a reason to come to Freedom Fest this year.
Yeah, I'll certainly enjoy the day when that's mainstream instead of what our current mainstream politics are.
And that's why we have to support it, because the more we can push it, we can break through that. And we have to, if we really want the future of this country. Listen, everybody should know our early bird is ending this Sunday, March 31st. So if you're hearing this podcast before then, get on to freedomfest.com, buy your tickets. If you haven't been to Freedom Fest, I guarantee you'll love it. And regardless of when you do come to freedomfest.com, use Knuckleheads50 for $50 off, whatever the current attendee rate is, and you'll get an extra $50 off. So if you care about freedom in your personal life or in our society, Freedom Fest is the place to come and engage with people who are trying to make a difference. And you can find out ways you can make a bigger difference in your own life and in your community, in your business, all of that. It's pretty amazing.
Awesome. And that's a great place to end on. Usually as we end the show, we like to tell our viewers, hey, before next week, you've just heard what's going on at Freedom Fest. You've heard us talk to people who are, running for local offices, or people who are running organizations trying to do outreach to people. And, think about what you can do in your community, because that's what this is all about. How can you make a difference in your community to move the ball for liberty? So until the next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.